everybody. Good evening. Happy Monday. This is the Lightgate. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Roku, Facebook, and YouTube. We are also very happy tonight. We have a really wonderful guest who's been in this game as long or a little bit longer than Preston, and he has a lot to tell us. So I'm going to hand it over. Go, Preston.
Thank you, Dolly, and thank you all for joining us on episode 42 of The Lightgate. I am your host, Preston Dennett, and my lovely co-host is Dolly Safran, fully conscious contactee. Super excited for our show tonight, and really want to thank you all for joining us. But before I do get into that, I just do want to give a brief, sad announcement. Our dear friend, UFO experiencer, researcher, and filmmaker, and former guest on our show, John Yost, has recently passed away. So I'm very sad. Send his prayers, everyone. He's on his great adventure into eternity, and I'm sure he's having a wonderful time there. But for all of us here on Earth, it's very difficult. We all just have a brief time here on this planet, and John is an amazing and wonderful man. So yeah, prayers to John Yost. We'll be seeing him soon someday, all of us. All right, now that that's out of the way, so sad. I just heard it today, so I'm a little torn up about it. Okay, back to happier news. Yeah, thank you all for joining us on the Lightgate. I am just so absolutely honored that you join us here each week. It's always so lovely to see all these friends here in chat. So I can't help but just say hi to all of you. Chemtrails, thanks so much for joining us. And Neural Channels. Woohoo! Can't wait for him to talk about his remote viewing when he visited an ET ship. That definitely sounds interesting. Be sure, here, I'm going to put a little star on that just in case. Don't forget that. We can ask him about that. So, hi, Renee. Hope you're doing well. Who else do we have here? Scuba Maru. Chris James. Good evening here. I'm not sure where you are. Morning, Now I'm curious. Ruth Kleiber. Happy birthday.
Birthday,
so
Ruth.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Hope we're celebrating and having a wonderful, wonderful day. Hi, Heidi, all the way from Denmark. Amazing. I'm enjoying your books. I'm going to have to get back to you about that because I really do love the stories. And thank you so much for sending me your really interesting books, and your experiences are absolutely fascinating. Who else do we got here? Fun Talks TV. Hello. E.T. Talking. Yes, Tom is the grandfather of the weird and the anomalous. He's got a lot of really interesting things to say. Michael Kennedy. Every time I see that popcorn emoji, I want to make popcorn. Hi, Mike. Hope you're doing well. Who else do we have here? Oh, namaste. Thank you so much for your absolute wonderful generosity and goodwill. It means the world to me. You have my eternal gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just so amazing. Always touches my heart. Allison Carr, hello. Thank you for joining us. And here's Dana Matthews. And she's wishing everyone a great night or day wherever you are. That's awesome. 1 Hour Wedding saying, oh boy, this looks good. You can't wait. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, 1 Hour Wedding. We are absolutely having fun. So awesome to see you here, as well as Star Orchid. These are exciting times. I really wonder what this year is going to bring, not only with this field, but with the world in general. Life on Earth, what are you going to do? Okay, who else do we have here? Lino Vovo, all the way from Colorado Springs. Oh, Melvin, all right. My sister lives in Colorado. It's the most beautiful state of all the states, I think. And the only one I haven't been in is Maine. So I love Colorado. It's gorgeous there. Alexandra, hola. Thank you so much for the podcast. Oh, you are welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Real Badger, I can't waste much more time introducing all you guys, but it's just so nice to see you. Keith Rothwell, awesome. You made the live show. Star Orchid, thank you, thank you. Janice Connett, who else have I not said hello to here? Chapa Reed, Pavlos, Dagger, Cheryl, Arizona. Tom, well, does he still live in the Sedona area? I'll put a little star next to that. He's pretty close, as I understand, but not in Sedona proper. Linda Catlett, Jacques Dion. Hi, it's Alicia, Kayleen White, John P. Adventures, and last one, Rat Food, just in time. Oh, well, one more, Catkins. Okay, now for real, we have to get to the show. I am super, super excited for our guest tonight. Here, let me just pop up the banner so you can see who he is. Our guest tonight is Tom Dongo, and I have been watching and following his research for a very long time, really since I got involved in this field. And he's a very interesting fellow. He's a paranormal UFO and ET researcher, as well as a remote viewer and a medical intuitive. And we are so happy to have him here on the Light Gate tonight. He is a longtime resident of Sedona. I think probably knows more about Sedona than just about anyone else in this field. He is recognized as a world authority and one of the United States leading authorities on UFOs, paranormal occurrences, and remote viewing. And over the course of many years has been a key lecturer at numerous U.S. national and international conferences, including the International UFO Congress. He studied at the Berkeley International Psychic Institute in Santa Cruz, California. That sounds really interesting. And has spent the last 30 years in the greater Sedona, Arizona area, which is known as one of the premier UFO hotspots of the world. Yes, I've been there. It's so beautiful and enormously active when it comes to UFOs. So what else do we have here? Tom teaches classes on remote viewing. He has appeared pretty much on all the major podcasts, including Coast to Coast, of course. Tom is a writer of mainstream magazine articles and the author, at last count, of 8 books on the paranormal and UFOs, including The Mysteries of Sedona, which is a multi-volume set, books 1, 2, and 3. As well as Mysterious Sedona, everything you wanted to know about Sedona. And I actually have one of his books here, The Mysteries of Sedona, The Alien Tide. That's book 2. He's also the author of Merging Dimensions, The Incredible Saga of the Bradshaw Ranch. I really want to talk about that. That's one of these major hotspot areas, as well as Unseen Worlds. And I think that's it, if I got them all. But we do have links to his website and his Facebook page in the show notes. So after the show, you can check that out for sure. But now let's just bring him on and get to the show. Tom, how are you doing?
I feel humbled by that introduction.
Well, you've had an amazing and profound influence on this field, I think. For those who don't know of you, well, they haven't been doing their homework.
I've been at it over 50 years.
That's incredible. Jeez, that makes me feel young. It's awesome. Because here I am. I like to say I'm 57. I think I'm older than that now. 58. I'm pushing 59. Gosh, can that be?
Well, I'm going to be 79 in a couple of days, so you guys can wish me happy birthday.
Oh, wow.
And then,
that is awesome.
And then 80 after that. Wow, man, now we're talking.
That is really cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I usually like to start the show by asking our guests how they got involved in this field, if they've had experiences as young kids. Did they believe in UFOs? Were they always a believer or a skeptic? Just basically, how did all of this roll out for you to bring you to where you are today?
Well, like I was talking earlier, you guys are the 89th radio show I've been on in 6 years. So I've talked about just about anything you can imagine. And, you know, I grew up in Maine, and I really had no knowledge about UFOs or anything else. But one morning, actually one night, I was going out the door and I saw a red light, and it was pulsing, and it was fluttering like a leaf, like that. And it flew right between two clouds, and I saw that, and I said, well, I wonder what that was. So then a week later, and I'm glad I didn't go down there, because at the time, UFOs were seen hovering over high tension power lines. They were draining the power out of them. So I looked, one night, same thing. I came out the door and I looked way down the valley in front of my house was a UFO. It was red again, and it was flying along the power line. So I thought, well, that's really cool. I think I'll drive down there and see what that is. And I didn't. So I'm glad I didn't now, because I read that some people really had some problems that did that. You know, they saw a UFO over a power line, and then they got things happen to them. So,
wow.
And then what really got me interested in this, I was in ski business snow ski business for almost 25 years, and I had a ski shop with a couple of other guys in Reno, Nevada, and we took an hour for lunch every day, so I would go for a long walk. And so one day, I mean, some of the stuff I talk about sounds crazy, but I can prove almost everything I say one way or another. I've always said this because I'm not blowing smoke out my ears. So anyway, I was going down the sidewalk, and a gigantic pair of hands grabbed me from my shoulders down to my hips, and wow. it was holding me. I said, "Well, this is pretty weird," but I what the heck, you know? So the hands went with me for about a half a block and then turned me. And I'm going through, I find myself walking through this parking lot in Reno on Moana Lane, and I'm being guided, through the cars, and so I came to a bookstore. I went in, and I'm going through the aisles, and I get way to the back with all the used bookstores out, and the hands bent me over, and I'm looking right at this book, Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts.
Love that book.
Yeah. So that's what I spent 6 months studying. Seth Speaks. And that's what got me into this whole thing. Jane Roberts channeled Seth, and Seth was an enormous intelligence. No human could have faked what Seth Speaks.
No, I love the Seth books. I got all of them.
Yeah. So that was basically what got me into it. What got me interested in it. Then I moved to Santa Cruz, California. Just to do something different. And when I was in Santa Cruz, there was a lot of strange people like me there. So I really got involved in a lot of things that were going on. And anyway, that's my start.
Awesome. Well, we're getting a happy birthday, Tom, from Heidi Elizabeth Hansen.
Thank you.
So could we back up a second? When you said you saw this UFO, was that back in Maine?
Yeah, Falmouth, Maine. Yeah.
And how old were you, or when was that?
I would have been about 22 years old, so a long time ago.
Wow, and it was just your kind of classic saucer type thing?
Well, no, it wasn't. It was there was no saucer shape to it. It was just a red orb, and the thing that went over me between the clouds, it fluttered really fast like that, and it was red. But other than that, it didn't have a shape.
And what were you thinking? This is a UFO? I mean,
no, I didn't know anything about UFOs at that time. I had no interest, and I never heard of the term UFO before. So I just thought, well, that's pretty cool, whatever it was. And then I went into town.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you had studied up in psychic stuff at a university?
No, it was the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and I learned that probably the best thing I learned at the Berkeley Psychic Institute was that I had really powerful psychic abilities, and I was able to compare my abilities with their psychics, and they some of them were phenomenal. But one thing that I think aliens got involved in this, because the woman that ran the Berkeley Psychic Institute was wonderful. Everybody loved her. And she had to quit for some reason. And a guy took her place. And he was just a mean SOB. I mean, he was a mean man.
Wow.
So, yeah. So everybody quit. Everybody left the Berkeley Psychic Institute. So one night, as much as I know about psychics, I don't know how he did this. We were in there were about 30 of us in a meditation circle, and he was on one side of it. And one thing you don't do at the Berkeley Psychic Institute is fall asleep during a meditation. So anyway, I did. I fell asleep, and so it felt like a cherry bomb exploded in my stomach. I mean, it was just like that. So I woke. I opened my eyes and I'm looking around. What the heck? This guy's giving me a real evil stare on the other side of the room. So he did it. To this day, as much as I know about psychics, I don't know how he did that. He must have been an extraterrestrial. Now because I've studied. My main study has been human extraterrestrials for the last 50 years. So it's endlessly fascinating. But so I'm sure he was a human extraterrestrial, and because I don't know. I've known a lot of the world's best psychics, and I don't know anybody that could have done what he did to me. I don't know.
Amazing. Yeah, well, I'm sure you have all kinds of interesting stories well, here's a comment. Tom, let's hear some stories.
Yeah.
But there's one that is in this book, The Alien Tide, which kind of struck me, which I was told to you by a man named Martin. And I don't know if you remember this, but he went to a party and he was sitting there and everyone was talking. And there was a guy smoking a cigarette whose ash was about to fall. Yeah. Remember this one?
Yeah. Well, see that around here, that happened in Prescott, Arizona. That was back in the days when UFO groups were just starting. And, if there was one going on, everybody that was interested in UFOs would drive 50 miles or whatever to get to one of these group meetings. And I knew the guy, indirectly, the guy that was putting these on. But he said that he was... this young couple there were about 30 people in the group talking about UFOs, and there's this beautiful, very, very attractive young couple, 20s, maybe 25, 30, something like that. And so there was a guy on the other side of the room that was smoking a cigarette, and nobody else was, but the ash was about an inch long on his cigarette. So an ashtray floated across the table, rose up and bumped his cigarette, and the ash fell in the cigarette. The ash fell in the ashtray, and it went back over to the middle of the table. So that really got my friend's attention triggered, because he says, he's thinking, we got something unusual here. So he kept his eye on that young couple all night. So when the group broke up, he tried to go follow the young couple after, but a few people blocked him on his way out, enough to slow him down. So he got to the door where they had gone out. He opened the door, and he had just put loam on his backyard, so that it was just fresh, unseeded loam. And their tracks went about 6 feet and then disappeared. So they just vanished, like Billy Meyer, running through the mud and the tracks. My friend Colonel Wendell Stevens, was a good friend of mine.
Oh wow!
So I used to hear the Billy Meyer stories in Schmid-Rudy, Switzerland, and Wendell Stevens was right behind Billy Meyer, and he said Meyer, his tracks, it was about 3 tracks, and the one track was still filling with water, but there were no other tracks. Meyer was gone. So, that's kind of an example of that stuff. I can tell these stories all night long if you got time enough.
We do, yeah. The Billy Meyer case is super controversial, but I got all the books on it, and it's absolutely legit, because there's so many witnesses. And I know it's got some problems here and there, and I'm aware of it, but man, oh man, you cannot dismiss his case as easily as some people are doing. because there's so many. And Wendell Stevens, I talked to him because he was the guy who did the UFO photo archives, and I called him up to get some of his photos in my book on UFOs over California. And the nicest man, and really a pioneering researcher. Yeah. That's awesome. You got to meet him. We're friends.
Oh yeah, we were good friends. In fact, I when he died, I thought he was mad at somebody, and I thought it was me, and I felt bad about it. So Cece, his wife, said, "Oh no, this is just about a year ago." She said, "Oh no, he admired your work very much and used to compliment you a lot." So I thought, "Oh good." That meant a lot to me that she said that, because I really felt bad, because I thought he was mad at me, but it wasn't. It was somebody else,
Wow. Okay, I want to bring up another picture which I showed you before the show of the tree, because this was another interesting story. Here, for those who can't see the screen, we're looking at a tree which basically had 8 trunks kind of growing up, but now it looks like something, like lightning struck it, or perhaps
a UFO hit it. There was a caretaker of a development that was basically bankruptcy, but they had to have somebody take care of the houses, so they had Johnny. And one night he saw there was a hill near the subdivision, and he saw a UFO set down on top of the hill. So he went up there, he climbed up there, and this was a living tree at the time. Now it's the leaves are gone on it. But he said he saw a flash, and something incinerate. If it had been lightning, it would have burned the limbs, but it didn't. You can see it's burned at the base. So evidently the power of the UFO got too close to it and burned the tree. So I went up there. I took that picture, and it was bizarre. It's just lightning wouldn't do that. Yeah, I don't think.
No, it's
I have a question. Where was the stump?
It was just outside of Sedona. It was just a few miles from Sedona, and it was on top of a hill, and it's called it's near Long Canyon. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, but I went up there, and it was very strange. That's why I took that picture. It did, because I've seen a million trees get hit by lightning, and nothing like that. They get limbs blown off, and a pine tree will have spirals all the way down.
Yeah. Where was the tree stump? Where it went into the ground? The tree stump.
Oh, right here, right?
Yeah, it was right there, right in the middle. Yeah. That's what's left. That's what's left of it. There's not even the stump's even gone. And this is not an old. This is recent. I'd say within months after that happened. So it hasn't been sitting there for 20 years. I mean, if it's sitting there 20 years, so the wood could have rotted, but it's not the case.
Yeah, it's pretty darn interesting. And there's a lot of weird stuff in Sedona. It's not just UFOs, but
yeah.
So tell us some of the stories that you've researched or experienced that capture your attention, or that you're interested in sharing.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, I'm basically famous for my research on the Bradshaw Ranch, and
right.
And and I'm real familiar with the Skinwalker guys, the Skinwalker Ranch, and so the guy that owns the Skinwalker Ranch wanted to buy the Bradshaw Ranch. I said, "Well, you're too late. The government's got it. The government bought it, and so you know it's gone forever. I mean, you're not going to buy it away from the government." So at any rate, I spent 4.5 years, and this book, by the way, it's a bestseller for me. It's all about the Bradshaw Ranch, Merging Dimensions. It's my best-selling book itself. So everybody go out and buy a copy of Merging Dimensions. So anyway, so I spent 4.5 years in that incredible place. Linda Bradshaw, I was in Sedona, and I'd heard about the Bradshaw Ranch, the strange goings on there. So I thought, man, I would really like to. I had just written a book on the Mysteries of Sedona and the Alien Tide. I interviewed hundreds of people to write that book, The Alien Tide. So anyway, one day I got a a letter from Linda Bradshaw. She said, "Would you come out to the Bradshaw Ranch? Some strange things that are going on here." And she included some photographs. And so yeah, I was there. I went the next day, and the Bradshaw Ranch is kind of by itself. It's about 8 miles from Sedona to the south. And it's on a 6 mile bad dirt road, and so
nice.
I ended up spending 4.5 years, 3 or 4 nights a week at the Bradshaw Ranch. So Linda Bradshaw and I've been on television countless times talking about this stuff. So anyway, we experienced some of the strangest stuff that ever happened on this planet. And I was there for 4.5 years. And so the photographs that Linda sent me were Linda Bradshaw and Linda Crystal in New York, Pine Bush, New York, were the first ones to get orb photographs. Orbs were unknown before that. So anyway, Linda Bradshaw and Linda Crystal started the whole orb thing. And then it spread all around the world. People were getting orb photographs all around the world after that. So anyway, we what Linda and I did, we had virtually no money. Now the Skinwalker Ranch is multi-millions of dollars worth of sophisticated scientific stuff, and we had a camera crew out there every week from somewhere, Universal Studios, and we tell the crew, go back to your bosses, and because they photographed the same stuff we did, awesome stuff, and they saw what we saw. So I said, go back and ask your supervisor, please. If we could get some scientific equipment before this stops, because these things always stop at some point. So they did. Every single crew went back excited to their supervisors, and look what we got, but they need scientific equipment. And they got shot down every single time. So we ended up, we had almost no money. We had 35 millimeter film cameras and a couple of spotlights, and that's all we had. And later, towards the end, we got a Panasonic made a video camera that would film at night, and then now they have. I have 2 Sonys that anything you can see at night with the human eye, your eye, it will film it. So anyway, we that's all we had. That's what we did our research with was $10 35 millimeter point and shoot film cameras. That's all we had, and we would witness stuff ourselves, and I don't know how many times Linda would say to me, or I say to her, if you hadn't seen that too, I would have thought I was insane. Things would appear in front of us.
Wow. What kind of things did you see?
Strange things. I mean, there is a portal there. I don't know if whether it's still active or not, but we had just as an example. I mean, and this is countless things that happened to us. But one night I went into my van. I had a big van. I went in to reload my film camera, and something came in the van with me, and it smelled like burning tar and sulfur, and it was strong. Mm. So I felt something behind me. So I loaded the camera and then turned the flash on, and I put my thumb over the red light that showed that the camera was powered up. So I spun around real fast and pressed the shutter at the same time I did. And so the flash went off. I feel bad about this to this day. I think I hurt something very badly. This thing exploded right in front of me, and it looked like a daisy, just exactly like a daisy flower. The petals, the yellow middle, and then it just wilted like it died right in front. It happened that fast. So, wow. I mean that's just an example of unbelievable stuff that went on out there.
What about like UFOs and that sort of thing?
Well, no, not much UFO activity. There was, but not. It was more strange, ultra strange paranormal stuff like what I just talked about.
Huh.
It was stuff like
hard to categorize kind of things.
Yeah. How do you categorize? Linda and I one night, just by sheer coincidence, flashed it's exactly a split second same time. So we had two flash cameras, and in front of us was a white feather about 6 feet off the ground and about 14 feet long. It was big, a white feather. And I said, Linda, did you see that? So we developed the film the next day, and it wasn't, we saw it with our eyes, but the cameras didn't get it. But usually the flash will light something up the human eye can't see. They've proved that scientifically.
Right.
I used to have a videotape that talked about that. So that's my Bradshaw Ranch experiences.
What about like ghostly encounters? Did you have ghostly encounters there, or cryptozoology, Bigfoot?
Well, yeah. Well, there are Bigfoot still on the Bradshaw Ranch. We found the tracks a lot, big tracks, and dogmen. Actually, I know a lot about dogmen, and they are for real. And dogmen and big feet don't get along well at all. Huh. I'm glad. I've camped all over North America, and I'm glad I didn't know about dogmen 50 years ago. Because big feet, I didn't care, because I mean, there's really no evidence of a Bigfoot ever harming a human, unless they've been shot. And there have been big feet that have had to defend themselves because somebody was shooting them, But dogmen are just plain vicious. I mean, they can outrun anything in the woods. Deer. A man in Arkansas saw a dogman chasing a herd of deer, and the deer ran across the field, and a dogman just a couple of minutes later ran across. They can either stand up on 2 legs or run on 4. He said that dogman was going so fast it would caught up with a deer in minutes. So I'm just glad I didn't know about dogman when I was camping 50 years ago all over North America. Sometimes I had people with me, a girlfriend or whatever, but most of it was by myself.
So you've seen one?
No,
Ugh.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Luckily, I've seen the tracks. A friend of mine got some tracks of a dogman in Lincoln Canyon here in Sedona, and they are dogman tracks.
Yeah, there wasn't much talk about dogmen until fairly recently. I think Linda Godfrey, that's right, Linda Godfrey, her book, The Beast of Bray Road, really took off, and people started talking. Because I remember I got my first dogman story from a lady who was in the backseat of a car driving through, I believe it was New Mexico. And she's just looking out the side of the road and saw one standing at the tree line. She's looking at it and trying to figure out what it was. Finally, she got a good look at it. It was a couple 100 feet away. And then off they kept driving. So she didn't get to alert her co-passengers in the car. But she told me this, and I put it on the back burner because I had not heard of dogmen. And I thought, well, I don't know. And then I got another story from a lady up in Northern California who said one looked in her window. I kind of just assumed it was a Bigfoot, and she was, overlaying her own belief system on it. But she said, no, this looked like a dogman, And then I heard about Linda Godfrey and connected with her because we both had books published by the same publisher. And man, oh man, they are for real. I don't think people even have any idea, the general public, how many cases there are of dogmen.
There is a consensus of what they look like, like the top.
Yeah, they're brown. They have brown fur, and they're long legs. And I've got a very good artist depiction here somewhere. I'd have to dig it up, but they have a powerful chest and powerful arms and a face just like a dog, a long snout, teeth, and the whole deal. And so they're actually, I interviewed, this has happened 4 times here when I live in Cottonwood now. I've been here 4 years, but I lived about 35 years in Sedona. So in West Sedona, this just happened not too long ago. So a dogman terrorized a neighborhood in Sedona. I didn't interview the women, but a friend of mine did. So not long after that, I have 2 women friends. And I interviewed them. They're good friends of mine. One had a dog man looking in her window, And Dogman's eyes either glow red or orange. If you see a Big Feet's eyes do not glow. If you shine them, if you hit them with a spotlight, they do glow, but they don't glow. They don't glow, But a Dogman's does. And I'll tell you, I mean, I've heard stories of a Dogman that really scare the tar out of me. This one in I think it was in Arkansas. Dogmen are basically on the Mississippi River Valley. That's what most of them are. And the worst ones are in central Texas. Some of the stories I've read about, and these are normal people telling these stories. These aren't wackos or somebody out to be rich and famous or whatever. They're just normal people telling these stories. But the really bad ones, the really big ones are in central Texas. So anyway, I forgot what I was going to say, but they're for real. I spent a year studying Dogmen, and there's Vic Cundiff, Cundiff. He has a show. Every week he has a different eyewitness Bigfoot story, and I listened to his show for a full year, and some of those stories just scared the bananas out of me.
So do you consider them a cryptid, an animal that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a cryptid. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as I know, there's no real connection with UFOs. I know that there are some with Bigfoot, but I've never heard a Dogman UFO encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen one. I've seen entities that look like Horus. Okay, they are ancient beings, and they are physical, human looking, but they have the jackal head.
Yeah.
Very pronounced, face.
Mm-hmm.
And teeth, and their hands are clawed.
Yeah, that's a Dogman pretty much. Yeah.
But they don't have hair. They have very, very dark skin. They have bluish black skin, and their eyes don't glow. Yeah, they have golden eyes, as a matter of fact, and they wear clothes. So I've never seen a Dogman ever. No. I kind of missed the fact that I have never seen one. I would love to see one. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what they look like. My other friend, Summer, she had one walk in front of her at 2:00 in the afternoon where she lived. And she knows me, so she knows about Dogmen. And she said it was a Dogman. And it was only about 200 feet from her house, so it kind of freaked her out a little bit. But she said, "Oh no, it was a Dogman. It wasn't anything else." And there's been 4 sightings in this area in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting that you said that their primary location was, Texas and the Mississippi area, because I just heard a case in the Crowley, Louisiana area, which is right exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I wonder what's going on there. So here I have a question from Kim King. She's asking, what does Tom feel are the origins of Dogmen?
They've probably been here a long time, but that everything, the big feet, all the animals are getting crowded so bad that because the overpopulation is getting everywhere in this country, in the United States, that this livable area that people are building, they're crowding everything, and especially big feet. That's why big feet are seen more often. And the Dogmen have probably always been here, but they're just surfacing now. And they can be violent. They have killed people, about 6, unprovoked, and they're so at any rate, the Big Feet and Dogmen do not get along. A Bigfoot will kill a Dogman if they can.
Yeah, and I know
that's where the myth about werewolves came from.
No, yes, werewolves. In England, they call them werewolves, but they're Dogmen. I've done a couple of shows out of England, and we talked about that a lot. Yeah, they're werewolves. That's what they are. We call them Dogmen, but they're werewolves from the English. All the stuff that's happened in English with werewolves, the Dogmen.
Yeah, I've never heard a friendly Dogman story. I've heard friendly Bigfoot stories, many of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that you mention it, I don't think I've heard of friendly Dogman story.
No. I've been researching Bigfoot since I was 16 years old, and I've heard some incredible stories about Bigfoot. And the thing that baffles me is how can they stay invisible? And I know some of the best Bigfoot researchers and the top UFO researchers. And what baffles me and them is how do they stay hidden from us so well?
They're sentient. That's why they're sentient. They're thinking beings. They're not stupid.
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
I think they're psychic and paranormal too.
They watch us. They know our habits. They know what we're doing, and they act accordingly. And they're very dead serious on staying away from us. That's absolute.
Yeah. Right. Well, I interviewed a woman from Oklahoma, and she was just an absolutely normal housewife kind of a person. Her husband was, had a normal job, had normal kids, and she was just a normal person. She said they had a farm in Oklahoma, and there was a Bigfoot, and I know about a half a dozen stories like this. They had a Bigfoot family living on their farm, and the wow. Bigfoot would come and visit them, and they could speak English. And so you think, oh, that's wacko, that's crazy, it's baloney, but it isn't. There's a number of stories that I've studied that some not all Bigfoot. There's some of them. I'll tell you another really crazy story in a minute.
Right.
But this is a mind blower, I swear. But I mean, not all of them stink and are violent. I mean, some of them smell so bad it's horrific. But she would give them books, and they would read the books and give them back to her, then critique the books. She wasn't lying. She wasn't making it up. She was just telling the story. She wasn't trying to get famous or rich or anything else. So anyway,
wow. I've never heard that before. Wow.
Yeah. So listen to this. Now, I was on a show one night. Excuse me. Yeah, I forgot his name now. I've been on so many shows. And I'm old.
I know the feeling.
And I got a bad memory, and So anyway, I forgot the show, but it was one of the biggest shows. It's not he's not on the air anymore. I think he went off about a year and a half ago. But anyway,
oh no, not our bill.
Yeah, but anyway, he was saying we got talking about Bigfoot. And he turns to his producer and he says, "Can we talk about this story? We've never talked about this story on the air before." And he said, yeah, go ahead. It's about time we did. So him and his producer were both together. They were photographers in British Columbia, and I spent a lot of time in British Columbia. It's a wonderful place, wonderful people, and so they were on this lake in northern British Columbia, and they saw this big bear on the other side of the lake. It wasn't a very big lake, and then the bear stood up on two feet. It was about 10 feet tall, and they said, "Oh no, Bigfoot!" So as soon as the Bigfoot stood up, it started running around the side of the lake, and so they knew they were in trouble. So they just grabbed their camera equipment and started running for their car, and they got there the same time the Bigfoot did. So now get a load of this. So, they said the Bigfoot smelled so bad they almost couldn't breathe, and then the guy was driving his wife's brand new car, brand new. The Bigfoot picked up a boulder and smashed the driver's side fender on a brand new car. And I said, "So you're going to go home and tell your wife that a Bigfoot did that, smashed the fender on your car?" I said, "Good luck."
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah, they're
gosh.
very territorial at times. These Bigfoot
Yeah.
don't mess around. They will
No.
chase you right out of their area.
Yeah, they can. But I saw something just about 2 hours ago. Somebody in I think it was Wisconsin. Anyway, this baffles me. I don't understand it. They photographed a bunch of every Bigfoot will make these tent-like structures, but it's just logs. A bunch of logs, and there was six of them together. So, but they have never, as far as I know, they have never found one of these with covered with leaves or whatever. So they can, they can't. If rain would go right through those things, they're all open, and So it just nobody, as far as I know, has ever found one of these things that Bigfoot have made with leaves stuck in it so they can stay dry in the rain. But that's it's Bigfoots that make those things. They're all over the place. People have found them, and so
I have a feeling that they're like the Native Americans up there, as they bring their own skins and they take them with them, so you don't see evidence of covering.
Yeah,
They have covering. My
that could
my
be.
great grandmother used to camp out up there all the time, and she used teepees. She's from the northern part of Sweden. She's a not Lander, Sami, and she always had tents. And when I was growing up, she brought 3 reindeer tents back from Sweden for us to use for camping, and we used the big poles and everything, and we covered them and everything. And she used to tell stories about animals like Bigfoots, and that they did the same thing. She says the old lore of the Sami people as they were taught by these. Yeah.
Well, Bigfoot's all over the world. Yeti, the different names, and the Australians, the Yowie and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they're all over the world. A little bit different. The Yeti are different from the Bigfoot here. So they're even in Maine, they've even been seen in Maine when I grew up.
Yeah. They're all over the place for sure.
Yeah. But they say hidden so well.
Well, here's a comment, not so much a question, from Synthetic Nature. He's talking about how they can speak any language because they are telepathic.
Yes.
The first case I got did involve a telepathic Bigfoot. So what do you think about all the paranormal aspects people talk about? Because one guy told me he watched a Bigfoot actually appear and then disappear. A whole family of them, actually.
Well, I did a big speaking gig in Utah a couple of years ago, and the world expert on Bigfoot was there, and he and I had a heated discussion. He I forgot his name, probably just as well, but he was to prove Bigfoot's existence and where they were and how many there were, because he had tracks that he sold, and some of them were enormous tracks. They were the casts, So I told him, he said some nasty words to me and then walked away. So I said, I have, and I've talked to guides, wilderness guides, that have seen Bigfoot tracks appear, go 100 feet and stop. There's none before, none after. So that means that they materialize and they dematerialize. And he just blew his top at that and walked away. He said some really cool 4-letter words. So that guy's not on my best liked list. He's a world expert, supposedly.
Yeah, there was a lady who wrote a book. Gosh, I forget I think her name was Lunetta Woods or something. She was following, she had a Bigfoot around her property up in Wisconsin, and there was tracks, and she followed the tracks, and they changed into deer tracks, she said.
Really?
And I thought, because I did interview a lady who said that she saw Bigfoot and then it came as a dog. That was her impression. I don't know. So there's all kinds of weird Bigfoot stories.
I'm an expert on skinwalkers, because I work with the Navajos, the Apaches, the Zunis, and the Hopi. I know their customs, and I've been working with them for years, so I know their stories. And my best friend, my best friend ever, was a Zuni elder. He died about a year ago. I miss him every day. He was a Zuni elder, and tears come to my eyes when I think of the guy. So he knew all the stories about the Indian stories and the skinwalkers. I asked him about dogmen, and he said they don't know. We just don't know what dogmen are. Indians, and he knew. He worked for the government, the U.S. government, and he was in his charge. There were 260 tribes that he was responsible for the government.
Wow.
Most of the Indians didn't like him because he was a government agent. He never lived that down. But I'm a skinwalker expert, and they can shapeshift. they can. In fact, there was a story about the Navajos. A coyote was shot in the hip. And Indians don't lie. They don't make up stories, not like we do. So anyway, there's a coyote shot in the hip, and the next day they found an old man dead in his cabin, and he'd been shot in the hip. So
Wow.
yeah, and I checked this story out. There was in Window Rock, Arizona, a Bigfoot skinwalker was hit by a car. They didn't know what it was, so they hauled it to the hospital, the local hospital, and they put him in a bed, and the doctors and nurses says, "We're not going to touch that thing. We don't know what it is. It's not human." So it came around a little bit and ran out of the hospital. It was gone, but it was a skinwalker, and they're very ugly things. I get stuff from all over the world. I'm at the center of a network, and so a woman sent me an email of near Vernal, Utah, which is very close to where the Skinwalker Ranch is. She said they were going about 70 miles an hour, and they looked up on the side window, and it was an animal running along with them at 70 miles an hour. And they said it looked like a mangled deer. Well, that was a skinwalker, and it veered off and ran off into the desert.
I always kind of viewed them as some sort of demonic spirit that can physically manifest in some way and do all kinds of nasty things. I don't know. It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, well, I know the Navajo Rangers, and those guys aren't too crazy about me. I stick to what I know. Whatever somebody else knows, fine. Cool. With me, if you prove me wrong, that's the end of it. I'm not going to bicker and squabble about it for 6 months. but they're like some of my friends, but anyway, I know that I met the Navajo Rangers. They're ex-Navajo police, and they deal with skinwalker stuff a lot. So we had a pretty interesting disagreement about skinwalkers, so that we aren't the best of friends. I don't remember what it was.
It's too bad people can't just debate in a friendly way.
Yeah, right. You're right.
So here, I'm going to pull this up again, Merging Dimensions, because Allison Carr is asking, and we already covered the Bradshaw Ranch, but she's asking, what was your wildest experience you had at Bradshaw?
Oh, yeah. I was just on, this had 280,000 views. I was on TV, the History Channel. And they interviewed me about this, and it's almost up to 300,000 views now, I think. But anyway, Linda Bradshaw and I were. I've told this story a million times. I'm still not tired of saying it. but anyway, we had 3 million candle power spotlights, rechargeable spotlights, and mine was going dead, but Linda's was still okay. And we heard these sounds. The Bradshaw Ranch has a dry creek that goes around it. And we heard strange sounds. I mean, Linda and I are both, we've been in the desert a long time. And so I'm saying, well, Linda, what does it sound like to you? It was like a mountain lion, a javelina, which is a pig, and a bear. And she's, no, it's not. It's something. It's different. So anyway, this thing was coming towards us, and it was walking in the dry creek, so it got closer and closer and closer. The Bradshaws had 7 dogs. A dog would wander onto the Bradshaw Ranch, and they'd keep it. They were handy guards.
Sure.
So the ocean has come and gone 7 times from Sedona. And so there's beach sand everywhere around here. And so the dogs in the summer would dig into the sand to keep cool. In the winter, they dig into the sand to keep warm. So anyway, Linda and I heard this thing. It was made enough noise so we could follow it. And then it roared like an African lion. So we knew this thing was big. I mean, it was whatever it was big. So the dogs instantly, all 7 dogs dogs jumped up exactly simultaneously and took off as fast as they could run. So I said, Linda, we're gonna hear dogs ripped to shreds. So we waited, and nothing, not a sound, not any sound. So about 15 minutes later, all the dogs came trotting back. So they knew this thing. They knew what it was. It didn't attack them, and they didn't attack it. So it went. The Bradshaws had a corral on the south end of the ranch and a corral on the north end of the ranch, and there were about 8 horses total, and there were 2 horses in the southern corral, and so this thing came down the dry creek, and it got near the horses, and the horses. I've asked horse people, have you ever heard a horse scream like a woman being murdered? They said, no, I never have. Horse people. So, well, all the horses, the Bradshaw, were screaming like it sounded like a woman being killed. That's what it sounded like. So the horses on the south corral, the corral they were in was 2-inch by 10 boards, and the horses were trying to kick their way out. They were making a lot of noise trying to kick the boards off, and so that thing walked right by them and didn't bother the horses at all. Just walked by them. So Linda and I, the next day, her spotlight. We walked as far as we dared to down the field into a big clump of trees. We thought it was in a clump of trees, but it wasn't. It was on a hill looking down at us, and its head just stuck up but we didn't know it. So the next day we went up on the hill, and the tracks. My stride is 27 inches, and that creature's stride was 72 inches. So it was 10 to 12 feet tall.
Sounds like feet. A Bigfoot.
yeah, or something else. And so we staked out the tracks, and it was pretty doggone interesting. But Linda moved to Thompson's Falls, Montana. She died about 3 years ago. So she took a lot of photographs with her that I don't have. Wow. But the night that Linda, I didn't know it. I was camping by myself, and I heard a voice in my head that said, "Don't worry about me. I'm all right." And I found out next day Linda died that day.
Oh,
so
wow, it's psychic ability at work.
Yeah, it's close to somebody that can happen.
Yeah. Well, we do have to take a quick station ID break. So if you just hold on a second, I want to let everyone know that you are watching The Light Gate. This is episode 42. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. Our guest tonight is Tom Dongo. We've been talking about all different kinds of things, such as, human-looking ETs, a tree that got crushed by a UFO apparently, some dogman stories, some Bigfoot stories, psychic abilities. We got a lot more to cover, but I do want to let you know that we are streaming live on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana. Also the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3. We are also streaming on Roku, so you can check us out there on YouTube and Facebook. We're very grateful to all the people who support our show. So thank you for those of you who have given us the super chats. We truly, truly appreciate that. And that's basically it. But I do want to pop up some of Tom's books, just so you guys know how much research he has done and is doing. Here's Merging Dimensions, the Incredible Saga of the Bradshaw Ranch. We've been talking quite a bit about that. Here is Mysterious Sedona, the year 2000 edition, The Mysteries of Sedona. Sedona is a neat place, you guys. If you ever get a chance to visit it, it's one of the most beautiful places. It's Arizona's biggest hotspot by far, and definitely one of the top UFO hotspots in the United States, if not the world. What else do we have here? Everything you wanted to know about Sedona in a nutshell. And here is another one, Mysteries of Sedona, Book 3. Beautiful, beautiful place. Unseen Unseen Beings, Unseen Worlds, a look at the realms of the great unknown and proven methods to view and contact them. Ooh, that sounds really interesting. This is the book I have, The Alien Tide, filled with all kinds of really interesting UFO accounts and paranormal stuff as well. Here's another edition, all kinds of books. So definitely, if you get a chance, check them out. They're amazing. You keep busy, don't you, Tom?
Well, yeah, now that I'm slowed down a lot. When I was younger, I said many times, I used to hunt them on their turf, and I did. I'd go after them, and so I've never been hurt. Or Linda Bradshaw, all the stuff that happened on the Bradshaw Ranch, we never got hurt in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pushing 80 years old now, so so anyway, no, I did things that people thought I was insane. I'll tell you. You got a few minutes?
Yeah, we do. We got 1 more hour.
We do. Yeah, we've got 50 minutes. So yeah, I just put this on the internet, and this is a true story. I don't make these stories up, but I've held poltergeists in my hand. One time when I was back in Maine, I had strange psychic abilities. I really do. I can see into a human body like X-ray machine. I can just start at somebody's head, and I don't do this for money. I've done it for hundreds of friends, but not. I found that if I try to do this for money, it doesn't work. So I just give it away. But I can start from the top of somebody's head and go right down through their body and see everything that's wrong in their body. And I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times, even on medical doctors. They, okay, bud, check me out, see what have at it. Let me see what you can do, And I have. I got a medical doctor. He was a head of a big clinic in New York. He was very overweight. And he said, all right. He was challenged me. He says, oh, check. We were at a big healing thing, that I wasn't the host, but I was there. And so he said, all right, check me out. So I did. I went down through his body. He was sitting down. Usually have to have somebody standing up in front of me. Then I can see, and it takes me more than a few minutes. It takes me an hour to go to a really good job. So I did. I went down through his body, and I told him what I saw, what was wrong. He said, "Well, you got 90% of it exactly right, but you missed one big thing." And I said, "Yeah, what's that?" He's my back. He had a bad back, and I said, "Oh, really? Well, stand up and turn around." So I went. I'll never forget this as long as I live. So I said, "Oh yeah, right here." He goes, "Ah!" So I couldn't. He was so fat I couldn't see through him. But when he turned around, I could see it, and I told him exactly what was wrong with his back. He had some discs out of it, and he had a lot of nerve damage and some inflammation. Inflammation is bad in a human body. When I see red in somebody's body, right, they're in trouble. Black is red.
I know they call it medical intuitives now. Yeah. In my day, it's a form of psychometry, and it's a higher evolved psychic talent, just so you know.
Huh. Yeah.
As a registered nurse, triage was my bag, and I'm very good at that. And but I can assess you in seconds.
Yeah.
But a skill that, unless you're taught that skill, and I was taught, if you come and by it naturally, that's a gifted psychic ability you got.
Yeah.
You're tuned into it.
Yeah.
This is something you've been experiencing your whole life, though, Tom?
Well, yeah. Well, I never really. Nothing sparked it until the last 20 years. So then I have been born. I was born with a phenomenal remote viewing ability, and I proved it many times.
Yeah, that's actually, that just means your consciousness is active. In other words, do you sleep? Do you dream at night?
No, I've had insomnia for 25 years. I
Yes,
get a
you're
few
fully
hours.
awake and you don't realize it. You're not an insomniac. Your consciousness is wide awake. That's
Yeah,
that's psychic ability right there because
yeah,
you're working straight out of your own consciousness,
yeah,
and because that's
So
where
many
your
contactees
ability
tell me
is.
that. They're like, yeah, I have insomnia. I'm like, yeah, well, that's one of the things I ask if you're a
really,
contactee.
Right.
really.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, I've
Absolutely.
had, yeah, 20.
I only slept 2 hours a day. That's it. And if then, and
You?
yep,
Yeah.
yep, my whole life.
Huh.
I'm
Wow.
sleeping more now because, well, I don't really sleep. I just lay in bed all night. Okay, I think all night
Yeah,
long.
yeah, yeah. Me too.
It's because I'm trying to keep it quiet for
Yeah,
somebody else in the house, and
yeah.
yeah, but I just lay there all night long.
Huh. Yeah,
And
yeah, 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 yeah.
remote view or I go out of body. Either one works for me. Out of body is the same as remote viewing. You're just throwing your consciousness out.
Yeah,
You're not walking into it. Although I don't know, it seems the same to me sometimes.
yeah. Agreed, agreed. Yeah. Well, you, as like I said, you guys are my 89th show in the last 6 years or so, and I used to teach remote viewing with Maureen Saint Germain. She's one of the world's best-selling authors,
Oh, wow.
and I'm getting too old now. I'm just getting, and Maureen is off. She's in China most of the time, so
Oh wow.
teaching Chinese and whatnot. So anyway, I've tried. I've had millions of people on a show, and I've tried to teach them remote viewing. And so far, I had very little success. But Maureen would teach the military version, coordinates, and I would teach what she called the Tom Dongo method, and it worked pretty doggone good. We created some pretty fantastic remote viewers. A couple of them even blow me away.
Yeah.
One of us said that the Titanic didn't sink. It's in harbor in England with a different name on it, and it is. That wasn't the Titanic that sunk. It was her sister ship.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. The Titanic is in port somewhere in England. So and he said no, it didn't sink. And I said, how did you? He was a guy from some South Indian country, and I said, you know that that's
They rebuilt the Titanic, right? And it's in port in England.
yeah.
They actually rebuilt the thing. Yeah. And it's like they're getting ready to open it up and do tours on it and take people out for rides.
Yeah.
I hope they made the watertight compartments watertight.
Sink proof.
Wow.
But anyway, remote viewing. I wish I could teach, and I've tried to give it away free. I mean, I wish everybody on Earth could do remote viewing.
Absolutely. You should be able to. Everybody should use their psychic abilities. You're born with them.
Yes.
And
I did some good experiments with it, and it worked for me. But it's hard to do because when I do it, I feel like I'm guessing until I get a clear image, and then I'm like, okay, well now I see what I'm looking at.
That's just the beginning of it. Sometimes with remote viewing, first you'll see colors, then you'll see what looks like an outline, and you're like focusing in on it. And once your attention gets drawn into a specific part of what you're looking at, then it starts to fill itself into you. It's like being in a telescope and fine tuning the picture so that you can see it from a long range.
Yes, yeah.
And then once you got it, you got it. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to get that total image.
Well, here's a question or a request from Neural Channels. It says, can't wait for you, Tom, to talk about your remote viewing experience when you visited the ET ship.
Yes, I want to hear this.
Joe McMonagle was just on tonight. Joe McMonagle, I didn't know he was still alive. He's about my age.
Wow.
But Joe McMonagle was I was standing right next to him. This was about 20 years ago now. And, this times I thought I was going insane. I can't be doing this stuff. I mean, I've got to be nuts. I mean, there's just no way this is for real. And so Joe McMonagle was standing, he was right beside me, shoulder to shoulder. And he was talking about, and I'd been doing this. And when he's talking, I said, I'm really not crazy. But they said him and the government UFO, viewers were going on alien craft, and it's easy. I taught a whole class to do it when I was doing one of my speaking gigs, and so they and the shock. Some of them did it, and you could tell the shocked expression on their face. They did it. Yeah, and so Joe, I I love to tell this story because I what a sucker he was. I mean, he said, well, I went to this ship, and you go out into space. If you get close to an alien craft, there's lots of them out there. They're either in orbit around the Earth or on a trade route. And so Joe, you come up, you go out into space and you find an alien ship. But you go up to it slow. If it feels friendly, keep going. And if it doesn't, get away fast because they don't mess around with you. So if you keep going closer, so you're right up to the hull of the ship and it still feels good, go in. Just go right through you can float right through the wall. I've done it many times. I don't do it anymore because I'm just not interested in it. But Joe McMonagle did that, and they grabbed him and put him in a cage, like a glass cage, and wouldn't let him go. Oh, they warned him. He says, we warned you not to come any closer to this ship. I think 2 or 3 times they warned him, and so they put him in a cage he couldn't get out of. So his psyche's up there in space somewhere, and his body's down here. It's really got scared, and he was in Vietnam. I think he did 2 tours in Vietnam. He got shot up bad in Vietnam. His back is wired with a computer so he can stand up. So anyway, they finally let him go, and I'm thinking, you dummy, Joe. I would never. When they warn you, get away. You don't mess with them. You don't keep going because they can really do some damage. So anyway, it's not hard. It really isn't. Just I tell people, use your imagination. It's not your imagination. Do it.
Okay, so what did you see when you did it?
Well, there are, to see. I've tried to like a camera focusing in on like gauges, and it's maybe some can do it, but I can't. But I have found out that when I was getting into remote viewing, you could not go to a safe in Moscow and look in the safe and find a document and read it. Now they can do it anywhere, any remote viewer. The Russians can do it. You can go into a safe somewhere 10,000 miles away, go down to the stack and find the document you want and read it. The Russians can do it. We can do it. The Americans can do it. Probably British, you name it. So now they can do that. But I tried. I can't do it. But anyway, the ships always have a light source that you can't tell where it's coming from. It's just lit up. It's a soft light, and there's no sharp corners in the ship. Right. There's nothing you can bump into and get hurt on these alien crafts, and everything's smooth. Everything's smooth. But they do control the ship. Most of them do control the ship with their minds. They'll sit in a chair and put a headset like this on, and that's what controls the ship. I mean, they're not there with, tractor deals in their hand.
Right.
So anyway, that's my. And it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do. But I don't do it anymore. I've done it for a long time. I'm just not.
So that's what you saw up there. You saw the rounded walls and the direct lighting and all of that.
Yeah. It's like opaque. It's almost never clear. I have been in places where I projected to, and it was clear, crystal clear, but most of the time it's opaque. I'll tell you another story about the guy a friend of mine is a psychologist. He lived in Durango, Colorado. So he tested me for 6 months to see how good I was with remote viewing. And he would, we're still good friends, Dr. Tom O'Donnell. But he would set up stuff for me to look at, And so I would, I'd go there. I found that anything that was in the sun, I could see it clearly. But anything that was in the shadow, in the shade, I couldn't see it. Not well, anyways.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but one time I went there, and we would meet. Just him and me would meet at like 7 o'clock or 7:30, arrange time, and I'd call him up and say, well, Tom, I'm here. I'm over to your left. And so one night I would appear in his driveway next to his second story office window, and I'd go through his office window, and he had curved stairs, and I would go down the stairs. And one time, I'll never forget this. I was about halfway down the stairs, and I suddenly got terrified. I mean, just incredibly terrified. So I stopped, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So after a while, it kind of dissipated. So I continued on back down the stairs, and I sat on the stairs, and I watched Tom. He was in the kitchen, and he had a red and white like a lumberjack shirt on, and cowboy boots, and blue jeans, and a cowboy belt. And you can smell things with remote viewing. You can be 10,000 miles, not thousands of miles, yeah, and you can smell it. So I was sitting there, and it smelled like he was cooking chili. Had a real spicy smell to it. So I called him up, and I said, well, Tom, I've been here for half an hour watching you, and I told him what he had dressed on. I mean, he was used to this. I did it so often. So I said, so we went into the living room. We were going to do the test that he had set up for me. And this is a psychologist, PhD psychologist. So I'm not crazy. I'm really not. He proved it.
There you go. Yeah.
So anyway, I said, Tom, I stopped him, and I said, is there somebody else in the room? He sheepishly said, well, yeah, there is. My next door neighbor's sitting on the couch. I looked at the couch, and there was nobody on that couch. It really scared the hell out of me. I said, Tom, I'm looking at the couch, and there's nobody on the couch. So I'm saying, was it somebody without a soul? Because there's these stories about people have a body but no soul. I couldn't see him. He was sitting there. So we did a simple test, and then I left, and I used to sometimes I wouldn't tell him I was going to be there. And I said, Tom, I'll never look in the bathroom. I'll just go right by the bathroom. I will never look in the bathroom, and I wouldn't. So one time, and Tom had a beautiful place in Durango, up on a mesa, facing the San Juan Mountains. It's just beautiful spot. So I went looking for Tom, and his dog, Binky, one of the little hairy dogs. I don't know what they call. But anyway, the dog was following me, and I got right down, looked him right in the eyes, about this far away. And I said, well, you little, you can actually see me, can't you? And he's going, that kind of stuff. And I said, you can see me. And the dog could. So, wow. So I went, Tom was in his garden. He was a gardener. He loved gardening. So I guess I called him. I don't know. And I said, well, I'm here. So, but I thought that was really interesting about the dog. It must have been like looking at a ghost. I must have been a ghost.
Yeah. I have a question, because this is important while you're talking about this in remote viewing. Orbs. What type of orbs have you seen and experienced?
Well, I did tours. I had a tour company for 23 years, and my UFO tours are so popular. I did 2 or 3 a week, and I got really, really burned out on doing UFO tours. Really burned out. So then I quit. I retired after 23 years. I haven't done a tour in years. But some of them are living. They're alive. Some aren't. But they somebody wrote a book about them. Some PhD guy. And he said that they have the intelligence of about that of a dog. And I would agree, because when Linda Bradshaw and I were on the Bradshaw Ranch, we had these lights at the end of the ranch, and we thought they were planes landing at the Cottonwood Airport. It looked just like planes coming in with the lights on. And I said, after years of watching these things, I said, Linda, I don't think those are planes. So we had these 3 million candle power spotlights. So we started playing Morse code games with these things, and they flash back, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, and they would flash back. I said, yeah, those aren't planes. So this went on for a long time. They liked Linda, but they didn't like me. They'd come close to Linda, but they wouldn't come close to me. They were way, but they kept getting closer and closer and closer. And when I wasn't there, they would actually land near Linda. We finally had a camera that would film at night. So we used to do this a lot. We put the camera behind us and take a flash picture and try to catch things off guard. And we did. So Linda, one night, she was just walking back to the ranch and she put the camcorder behind her and turned it on. There was an orb right behind her following her. And she was walking through some pine trees. And you could see it on the film going back and forth right behind her. So, yeah, they liked her, but they didn't like me for some reason. I don't know.
Have you any opinions about whether they are like, my experience with orbs is I have a bunch of different explanations for them because they're different things. They can be different things.
I think so.
One of the things that I learned is that ET can spy you by remote viewing you and from a craft. They'll come down and they'll look at a situation in an area consciously in remote view, and they look just like orbs when they do it. I mean, no kidding, orbs. And they can be either white or blue, or sometimes even like a golden color,
Yeah.
And those are a type of orbs. They're intelligent because it's the consciousness of the entity itself. Then there's orbs that are AI induced. This is I have direct experience with this because AI can spy you as well. They're psychic. It's a psychic
You
phenomenon.
mean AI like human AI
No,
or ET?
ET AI.
Oh, all right.
And they can orb. They become an orb, and they can come down and look at things. And they do that. You might think they're dogs because they're limited in their ability to communicate with you. Okay, ETs will small chat, like the little grays will small chat with you, but you're not going to get any big answers from them at all. They're very limited in what they will tell you or talk to you about. And,
Well, I've never heard that theory before, but I agree with you. That's excellent. Oh, I've never heard that before, but you're absolutely right.
yeah.
You're
And then
absolutely right.
there's another orb that is literally a person who's passed away and not left this plane,
Yeah.
and they show up as orbs, and they're everywhere. And they can follow you around. They like people. They'll attach to you and stay with you. Some for lifetimes. They're just always around. It's amazing to me how many of them are on this planet like that.
Or it can be a living person like you when you remote view.
Yeah.
Now I'm capable of remote view, serious remote viewing, and I had a CE5 group in Georgia, and I couldn't always go to the meetings because I was actually in Florida living. And when I did, I'd tell them, look, I'm just going to come in and remote view and watch. And one of the guys there decided to really check out whether I was for real or not. And they had cameras set up waiting for me.
Yeah.
They also had
right.
situations to me to prove that I was there.
Yeah.
And they would do strange things. And I started freaking them all out because I'm really there. I can really see what's going on. And everybody started writing me text messages. Do you know you're a blue orb? And then they got me on film, and I could not believe I was a blue orb. That freaked me out. I did not know. And that's when my AT contacts were saying, yes, you are blue. You are.
Well, remote viewing just goes to show that privacy is in a sense an illusion, and we are all connected.
Right.
Right. But we have morals, okay? And we don't spy on people. We don't invade their private thoughts or minds. That's a no. It's
the reason I'm trying to push remote viewing is because there would be no secrets. A good remote viewer can read somebody's mind. So if everybody could read each other's mind, there'd be no hidden agendas anymore, no secrets, no greed, no corruption,
all lies.
ET is wide open psychic with one another. They hear everything everybody thinks.
Yes.
And they have a very developed quorum of behavior. Okay.
Yep.
And so they're very specific, and I was raised a lot in that, so I understand the rules. Okay, and you don't people who aren't used to it, you don't go there. It's not right because they're not used to being 100% open.
So what is your theory, Tom, behind how remote viewing works? Is it like an out-of-body experience, and do you experience that as well, astral projection?
Well, I think it's an ability we all had long ago. We just forgot it. I didn't finish. I didn't finish the story. See, when I do a talk at big audiences, and I've had wall-to-wall audiences, I said my mind wanders a lot. So if I drift off into another subject,
somebody's dragging you away. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, hey, you were talking about remote viewing. Oh, yeah, okay. But yeah, I need to finish that story about the poltergeist. But go ahead, sweetie.
I want to hear the poltergeist. That's killing me. You said you got a hold of one. I want to know all about that.
Yeah, so I was in Maine, and it was a hot, humid night in Portland, Maine, and I was with my sister-in-law and a friend of hers, Connie, that was very psychic, naturally psychic. So we're sitting there talking, and I feel these ice cold things drifting around my leg, like dry ice. Yeah. So I grabbed one, God. I'm holding this thing. I mean, it's like holding dry ice. And, I talked about this on the internet the other day. I said, the funny thing is that I didn't get frozen. My hand didn't freeze, but I had this dry ice in my hand. So I walked over by the fireplace and sat down, and the poltergeist slid out of my hand, and it went in front of me and then started coming back at me. I didn't like that at all. So I put my hands up like that, and it went right through my hands, wrapped around my face, my head. And Connie got really panicky. She says, "Oh my God, Tom, your face just disappeared." So that was enough for me. I got up and went back and sat on the couch. That was the end of that.
Did you hear anything what it was saying? Did it communicate with you at all when it did that?
No, that's a good question. Though nobody's ever asked me that before. Okay. So anyway, about 5 years later, I was in Santa Cruz, California, teaching a class on channeling. Okay. I used to be a professional channel, so I was teaching channeling. I had about 30 people in the class, and so I felt this ice cold thing coming by my head, so I grabbed it. And so I'm holding this thing, and I said, "Everybody, you got to experience this." So I said, "Everybody line up, and one by one, hold what's in my hand." So they did, every single person, and then the last one. She did that, and it just slid out of my hands and disappeared. But every single person in that room put their hands around it. Yeah, ice cold.
Yeah, it let you do that.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. It let me do it.
Yep.
So it wasn't to harm me.
It gave you a learning experience for everybody else. That's very cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, here's a comment I want to jump up on before it gets too late from Susan Gordon, who says, "Hi, Tom. Finally caught one of your live broadcasts. So many great stories and wonderful memories from our hikes in Sedona with you, Peter, and Blair." Yeah. What is she talking about? Can you tell us? Can you share a story?
Yes.
If you can. I mean, or we can just move on.
Oh, we were Susan and I used to be we're wonderful friends still, and we did a lot of hiking with Peter Gersten. You ever heard of Peter Gersten's name?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was with us. I mean, anyway, Peter, Peter, he was the famous. And by the way, hi, Susan. But anyway, Peter Gersten was called a UFO lawyer because he sued the government. He sued the government under the Freedom of Information Act to release what they knew about UFOs. So they just blacked out everything they sent. It was all blacked out.
Yep. Citizens Against UFO Secrecy.
Yep. Yeah. So Peter, he would. I can't remember how this goes, but he believed in aliens, but he didn't believe in UFOs. Yeah. Hi, Susan. Hi, Susan. So anyway, Peter was a real work of art. I mean, he really was. We went on this thing in Indian Wells on the Navajo reservation, right in the middle. The stuff was so weird that they called the Navajo police and they wouldn't come out. But they had stuff flying around them, and aliens. There are three types of aliens there. One, those short black ones, about 2.5 feet tall. They had jet black skin.
Wow.
And the first time they saw them, they were all clustered around a car looking at the tail light. They were all wondering if it's some kind of a beam gun or something like that. So, and then the other one was, I call them Ichabod cranes. They had, they would never show their face to an Indian. They had hoods on, and they could talk. They talked perfect English. And these Indians lived in a place where nobody would be out strolling around at night with their dog or something. I mean, they're just in the boonies. And then the other kind was the girl that was telling me this story. I was interviewing her, and she had 2 kids, and the kids, one of the kids grabbed the tablecloth and pulled it off, and all the dishes went on the floor and smashed the dishes. So that was the end of that interview. But she was just getting ready to tell me. See, the Indians are different than us. I mean, us white folks, they're just different human beings. So, the kids take off, they know about rattlesnakes and cactus and all that stuff. So the kids just take off at young ages, and they're gone all day in the desert, in the boonies, and they know how to deal with it. And the parents, I talked to one guy, he says, yeah, we were 10, 11, 12 years old. And they used to leave us way off and harvest pine nuts. So they come back and get us in a week or whatever, little kids. So anyway, she said that they would commonly run into extraterrestrials. And so they would just avoid each other. They weren't friendly and they weren't unfriendly. But she took, there was a group of aliens, they were pulling grass and picking things off shrubs and whatnot, So she got too close to them, and they were about our height, and they had gray skin and big round eyes. But she said they weren't too friendly. And she said the last thing she remembers is one was carrying something like a cane, and it brought the cane up and pointed it out, and she passed out. That's when the kids pulled the tablecloth off the table, and that was the end of the interview. I never did get asked her to finish that story, but they had stuff going on. The Indians don't have cell phones. They don't have the stuff we have. Those people were dirt poor. In fact, I mean, they're just wonderful, normal people. I love the Indians. That they're just natural, down to earth human beings. So so I asked them. One thing, they had constant UFO activity, alien activity in that valley, and I said, the guy, he said, yeah, the other night an axe that I had on a chopping block got up and spinning and went way up in the air and then dropped back down. And I said, have you ever heard walking footsteps on your roof? Skinwalkers do that for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, a skinwalker will walk on a roof. So if you hear footsteps on the roof, it's probably a skinwalker, especially on a reservation. So and the funny thing is, while we were all out in front of their little house, there were about 10 people living in that tiny little 3-room place with nothing. I finally peeked in the window, and they had nothing. It's like they went to a thrift store and for $10 got everything they needed, But this horse, and they see the Mustangs, the horses, the wild Mustangs just roam free. Indians don't bother them. So this horse walked between us, and I swear that thing was a prehistoric. The hair on it must have been 10 inches long. I mean, it looked like a shaggy dog, but it was a horse, and it just casually walked between us. Wow, that's pretty awesome. And it had long, shaggy hair on that horse.
Very cool.
So,
well, I want to pop up this photo that I showed you before the show. It's an extraordinary photo, and we're beginning to run out of time. We got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah.
But this is a very interesting photo. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what we're looking at here.
I've been attacked and debunked so many times. I've quit 3 times. I couldn't take it. And this was, especially the debunkers drive me nuts. They still do. They're trying to prove you're wrong, And so I quit 3 times, totally quit. I said, I'm done with this. I'm not doing it anymore. And something would happen, a UFO crash or something. And anyway, this was some guy said, oh, that's hoax. It's a hoax. I said, okay, how do you hoax it? And he couldn't answer that. But that's an actual photograph of somebody was taking a picture of this woman, and this appeared in the, I mean, it looks like the tailpipes of a 55 Chevy, but it's not hoaxed. It's a real thing, whatever it is. And this is in Boynton Canyon, which is one of the strangest places on Earth, or it was, anyways. And this is the very holy rock.
It looks like something interdimensional. And for those who can't see, it shows a woman standing in the Sedona Canyon area, and above her the sky is all orange and red, and there's this large thing, like you said. I don't even know how to describe it.
It looks like a chess piece. It looks like a castle.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I've had so many times people say, "Oh, that's a double exposure." And then I say, "How is it just a double exposure?" Then they can't answer that. The debunkers always think of something, and I say, whatever I have, I can prove it somehow, and I do. But the debunkers made me quit 3 times. I couldn't take the skeptics.
Well, hey, I'm right there with you. It's vicious out there, especially on social media. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The thing about a debunker is you can debunk all day, but without proof of your ability to do that, it's really crazy. And you'd have to have all the equipment, like photographic analyzing, frequency analyzing of the picture, what kind of film was it, what it was this, what is that. I mean, and it takes a long time to take a picture apart and look at its different layers and all of that. And it would take a scientist, a debunking scientist. So if somebody's just saying, well, I debunked it, I wouldn't go there. I'd wait for somebody with some real, ability to do that, talk about it.
Well, the Billy Meyer, people say, oh, he hoaxed all that. I had a friend of mine, I won't say his name, but he went there to debunk Meyer. He said, I'm going to prove he's a fraud. And this guy was brutal. He would have been a great SS colonel in the Nazi. He would have been perfect. Gestapo colonel. He would have been perfect. So he said, I'm going to go there and prove that Meyer's a fraud. So his name is Michael. A lot of people know Michael. So I said, yeah, okay, Michael. So how'd it go with Meyer? Did you, how'd you go? He said, the man is telling the truth. That's it. And he walked away. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. I know it's a controversial case, but I certainly looked into it. And with landing traces, I mean, the thing, he's got so many witnesses surrounding him. We've seen stuff. You can't explain all of that.
No.
So I want to pop up a few more questions before we completely run out of time. And I would love to hear about, you said you had some face-to-face encounters with looking ETs, but hopefully we'll have time for that. But just real quick, does Tom still live in the Sedona area? Basically, right? That's true. Cottonwood, you said?
Yeah, I'm in Cottonwood now. It's 19 miles from Sedona south.
All right.
And, by the way, my website I haven't touched it in over a year, so my website is basically worthless. If people say, well, how do they get in touch with you? Well, I sometimes get 100 emails a day. Not so much now, but so I'm real reclusive. I'm real hard to get.
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. If they really have something really important.
Messenger. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but
I'm real reclusive.
I get it. Here's
David Paulides. Oh God, we got 2 hours.
Do you think UFOs and Bigfoot are related? Have you had cases like that?
Yeah, Stan Gordon in Pennsylvania. Bigfoot is seen often around UFOs. Like Stan Gordon in Pennsylvania. That was and even this Pennsylvania State Police got involved in that. And many times a Bigfoot was seen in a UFOs close by. But getting to David Paulides real quick. I remote viewed. I got to be careful what I say about this because it kind of freaks some people out. David Paulides said that the 410 people. So now there's many thousands around the world. So they disappear. They're in a national park, and now even in the national park now they say keep your kids in front of you. Don't let them walk rangers will tell them that. Don't let them walk behind you. Anyway, I got to be careful not to freak people out. But I've been able to remote view some of those. When I watched Pleiades' video, The Missing 411, you need to see that. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. The Missing 411 of Pleiades' video. And so I had, being the kind of remote viewer I am, I had the exact location where somebody disappeared, a deer hunter. So I was on Coast to Coast recently, and I kind of, Connie Willis is one of my best friends now. We just really, she was the host on Coast to Coast, but we kind of got into a disagreement about. People loved it. We were on the air. I said, "No, Connie, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to." So I did. So anyway, and people loved it. This is one of the best shows Coast to Coast ever had. So anyway, I had exactly where the deer hunter disappeared. I looked at Google. I got it. So I traced him. I followed him, and I can do that. Because everything leaves a trail. If you think about somebody, you're thinking about it, it leaves a trail, an energy trail.
Right. So
I got to a point where I was going faster and faster and faster. Then I came to a screeching stop, and a voice said, "This is as far as you're going to go." So it's like a wall. I learned how to get through those blocks. And long story, but General Stubblebine had the best remote viewers in the world in an audience. And said this was a long time ago, but they said none of us can get through the wall, the block, but I did. I can do it. So I almost raised my hand and yelled, I can do it, but I didn't. So anyway, the block was right in front of me. This stopped me from going any further. So I'm looking at this. I knew how to get around it, and the voice said, "Don't even try it." So I said on Coast to Coast, I said, what was that? Whoever it was, what was it they didn't want me to see on the other side of that wall? What was it? It's something us humans don't need to know about. So I'm thinking, but I didn't know what that voice could do to me, so I didn't do it. But what was on the other side of that wall? That it did not, that whatever that voice was, did not want me to see under any circumstances, because it was nasty. Don't even try it. So
it's another world. They're taken to another world.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, well, I'm curious. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Just one or two more questions, and then maybe we can talk about one of your own experiences. But Louise is asking, when you did that remote viewing onto a craft, did you see any ETs and which type?
Oh yeah. Now I talk about anything. I've talked to about 60 million people now on talk radio. And I talk about anything now. I used to be scared to death to talk about some of the experiences I've had. Really afraid of debunkers and skeptics. But I came face to face with an alien probably 3 million years ahead of us. And many of them are. And I said, do you mind if I scan your brain? Because I used to be able to be very good at that. I was in a bad car accident. I lost some of my best abilities. But 15 years ago, I was in a bad car crash.
So did you see grays, or what type of ETs did you see?
Well, this was, you couldn't, not really a gray, but I said, can I scan your mind? I can do this. I can still do it. I can scan things. It's like radar. It goes around it just like radar. Or I can just shoot like beams of light off and scan things. So I asked this one. I could only penetrate maybe a quarter of that creature's brain. He said, I stood in front of me. I said, can I? He kind of said, yeah, go ahead. So I did. I started on their ship. I started penetrating that creature's mind, and I could only maybe 5%. But I learned from that 5% of what their abilities are. And they don't do anything with their hands. They do it with their minds. Everything they do it. They have the power. Their minds are so powerful.
They're light workers. They work with light, and that your ability in your mind is all light, and they work with light. Yep.
Very cool. Okay, well, let me see. Do I have any more? Oh, just one more quick question from Louise. Native Americans are afraid to say the word skinwalker. Did that cause you any communication problems?
Yeah, it did. It did. When I was my friend her name was Pye, and she said, she was so intelligent that she was in with the councils. It's usually just men in these Indian councils, but she was in on the council. She was one of the members, revered member. So one time she said, we can talk about skinwalkers and Flagstaff, but don't ever bring it up here on the reservation. So we didn't. I'd meet her in Flagstaff. We talk about skinwalkers and other stuff.
I grew up in the Everglades, and the Miccosukee Indian village was right near us, and I knew them. They knew me,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I saw a reptilian type of being out there, and I ran, I swam, I got the heck away from it. Okay, and I tried to bring it up in their village, and one of the young women came up behind me and put her hand over my mouth, and she said, "Nope,
Yeah.
no talk, no talk." And I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll keep it to myself." But they would not openly talk about anything like that at all, ever.
Yeah.
And so finally somebody said, it's like if you talk about it and you think about it, they hear you and then they come, and you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Yep.
All right. Well, we got still about 5 minutes till we have to end the show. Do you have time to explain one of your face-to-face encounters with a human?
Oh yeah, real quick. I've been face to face with 3 extraterrestrials, and I was in a supermarket of all places, and Augie Noss on another show said somebody was invisible. Either you were invisible or they were. And I said, I never thought of that, but that's probably what happened. But anyway, the girl was a tall white, and they are very dangerous to us. And she was about my height. I'm 6'2", and she had a wraparound sunglasses on and snow white skin, and she wore everything black. But she was with a guy that had like a dog, a blue eye and a green eye, and he was about 6'6" tall.
Wow.
So they were going around the supermarket they didn't buy anything, but you could see they would take things off the shelf, and they say, humans actually eat this. They put it back. You could see what you could see with it. So, and then the other time I was hiking in boonies, and around here women always have a dog with them. But this woman came walking out of the bushes, and the mud was 6 inches thick. It had been raining, and so she had a white wool sweater and red pants. And she just walked out of the woods, middle of nowhere. So, and I was trying to find a trail. But anyway, to make a long story short, she talked to my girlfriend at the time, and then she came over to me, and she looked about 27, and just an average looking, and she talked. I mean, literally, my face was this close to her. She whispered, and so I had to get my ear right down her, and I said, "Hey, do you know where the trail is going down the ruins?" And she pointed. She's like right here, dummy. So I looked, and I said, "Yeah, sure enough, that's the trail." So got down there, and the water was roaring because the snow had been melting and all that, and she was wearing street shoes, and we had hiking boots with big clogs on us. So we got down there, and it was very steep. So I'm talking to my girlfriend, and I turned around, and here's the girl right here. So I'm looking, how did she get down here? I mean, the trail was steep, and she wasn't out of breath or anything, or dirty, no mud on her. So I looked at her, and I said, she asked me something about the petroglyphs behind me. So so we talked, and I had to she just almost whispered. So then my girlfriend got my attention down by, and the water was roaring just for maybe 10 seconds. I turned back, and the girl was gone. She was nowhere in sight. I could see 100 yards in all directions. And so I think a ghost can't do that.
She was deliberately directing you. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
She wanted you to pay attention to something. She meant
that. Well, guys, here are Tom's book, Merging Dimensions, Mysterious Sedona. Check them out. The Mysteries of Sedona. Everything you wanted to know about Sedona. Mysteries of Sedona, The Quest, Book 3. These are awesome books. I see some of you have already read a couple of these, but definitely check them out. I have this one. It's awesome. This is another cover of the same book. Very, very cool. But yeah, we're going to have to say goodbye, unfortunately. I do want to give a shout out to all the people who donated super chats. Namaste. Thank you so much. Terry and Allison Carr, you guys, this makes a huge difference. Raul Melendez, thank you so much. And Louise, thank you, you guys. You are so, so generous. Star Orchid, thank you so much. You guys are just the best. Doxy, I can't thank you enough. Victoria Williams, you guys are just the greatest. So thank you so much for the super chats. And thank you, Tom, for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yes. My pleasure.
Really cool.
Yeah, we're going to have to ask you back again.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for coming and joining us on the Light Gate tonight. We appreciate everything you do, and we love you all very much. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay warm, stay dry, be happy. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.